talked about prayer and reflection. Did you start to build yourself like a roadmap of, how I'm going to move forward, how I'm going to get out of this, bad place?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, to preface it even further, I used to say I wouldn't have wished it upon my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Now I say, if you must, go through it. Because the blessing on the other side, like God doesn't waste pain. And oftentimes, pain is God's preparation for us.
Today I'm here with Josh Kosnick. He's a bridge builder, a leader forged through fire and guided by faith, as a founder of Kairos Coaching and an EOS implementer.
My kids are my why. I do it for them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Josh Kosnick. He's a bridge builder, a leader forged through fire and guided by faith, as a founder of Kairos Coaching and an EOS implementer. He empowers individuals and organizations to align vision with execution. Josh, as I said, I'm gonna let you tell your story. I am really excited to hear your background and everything. But first, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for taking the time out to talk with me today. I'm really looking forward to it.
I appreciate you, Jason. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you started off with a great slight intro there, but really I started as an entrepreneur at 24 when I got told no for a raise at Best Buy. Best Buy was a much bigger deal 22 years ago or whatever it was, before Amazon and Walmart kind of started whooping their butt. But yeah, I got told no for a raise and decided I didn't want that in my life anymore. And I decided to go out on my own. And for now 21 years, I've been in that world of entrepreneurial growth, and I've exited 3 businesses, and one for 6 figures, one for 7 figures, and one for 8 figures. So I've kind of climbed that proverbial entrepreneurial ladder. But my last exit wasn't a happy one. It was a forced exit. And that's what led me to writing the book, The Kairos Code. And because God was telling me that those lessons weren't just meant for me, they were meant for the world. And that's where I wanted to get that out to the world. So hopefully people can learn these lessons through me instead of the hard way that I had to learn them through. And so now I have the ability and privilege to coach a lot of high-end entrepreneurs and high achievers. And I built out this 80 acre retreat where I get to get people away from their Zoom screens and away from their fluorescent lights and be able to work inward so they can go back to their world as better human beings.
Yeah.
And that's the 30,000 foot view.
Hello. Well, there's going to be some things to unpack there for sure. First of all, it's funny. I mean, the Best Buy reference. I feel like people don't think about Best Buy, but that was like a real big deal back then. Like everybody, that was where you got electronics. And now it's kind of almost like an afterthought. So poor Best Buy, but seems like you did okay from there. Tell us a little bit about kind of that entrepreneurial journey. You had a number of successful exits, and then one that maybe it sounds from a financial standpoint might have been successful, but it was a forced exit. So I wonder if you would give us maybe some of the like high level details on some of that in reference to sort of how it shaped your journey and what experiences that you've then used to fuel you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that at the beginning, it was about being paid what I was worth, right? That's why, the no from Best Buy, being told no for a raise stung so bad, because I was running a top 5 store in the country, and I was always raised with, you do better, you get more, and that just didn't sit well with me. So as I struck out on an entrepreneurial journey, I started in the financial advising world and had a lot of success early on. And as I was growing, I should also mention I'm a college dropout. I never liked the classroom setting. Didn't find out I was ADD until I was 25 years old, and I was studying for investment exams. And that was a good realization to have as to why I didn't actually do so well in the traditional classroom setting. So as I'm growing through this business and learning, my way of hiring employees and being a leader and all that different stuff, and growing the business at the same time, those are some great epiphanies, great lessons to learn that all entrepreneurs have to go through. Exiting that business at 35, selling my personal practice and taking over a very large firm felt like the mountaintop, right? It felt like I got there at age 35. And what from the outside everyone saw was this straight line up of trajectory of Josh. And on the inside, it wasn't, that's not how it felt. And certainly every entrepreneur knows it's more like a stock chart up, where it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But from the outside looking in, everyone just saw up. And at 41, that all came crashing to just a halt when I was forced to exit. I had a leader on my team that was a cancer in the culture. And that was 2021. That was during the, not only COVID, but also the BLM stuff and some of that push through the corporate world. And I got sued for discrimination, and not because I actually discriminated, but because this person was trying to further their career and use that as a platform. And the corporate office that was above me that I ran my firm through decided to get themselves out of the lawsuit. And so that sent me into my pit of despair. So they had to buy me out, and that took about 6 months of negotiations between attorneys. Anytime you get attorneys involved, it takes longer. But during that 6 months were a lot of epiphanies, a lot of hard times alone. And I would sit there in prayer and reflection on, why was this happening? Because I thought I was living out my purpose. My plan was to run that firm from age 35 to 55 and then figure out what my next chapter was. And the age-old adage, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, that played out. And so a lot of prayer and reflection over 6 months, going through the stages of grief, figuring out who I was again, what was my purpose on this world, because again, I thought I was living my purpose, and then that's taken away from you. And so it's a lot of reinventing of yourself and going through the fires, if you will, to make sure that you can come out the other side. Because I have 4 young kids and a spouse and bills and all that different stuff. And I had to figure out what was next. And at the same time, I'm getting recruited by everyone in the financial world, the financial industry. And I was taking those meetings. And every time I took one of those meetings, something didn't sit right in my stomach. So, okay, God, what are you trying to tell me? And in that prayer and reflection time, it was that I'd already accomplished everything I set out to in that industry, and it was time to blaze a different trail. And so not only was that 6 months really painful to go through all that, it actually was a huge blessing on the other side, because it allowed me to reimagine and envision what I wanted to do next. But I'll stop there because I'm sure there's some questions that you have to unpack.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you have podcasts that you hear these stories from people, and it's fascinating how I'm not sure that we all would want to go back through those really hard times again. I don't know that we necessarily want to relive them, but I do think that oftentimes they lead to a breakthrough, an epiphany, something that allows you to find that next level, that next purpose, whatever the case may be. I think that there's something to that. When you were kind of in that time, and I don't like to make people sort of relive that, but what did you do? I feel like there are maybe things that people use or tools that people use to get themselves through. You talked about prayer and reflection. Did you start to build yourself like a roadmap of, how I'm going to move forward, how I'm going to get out of this, bad place?
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, to preface it even further, I used to say, because I'm now 4 years removed from that dark time, right? So I have some better perspective, maybe some understanding and maturity that have come along with it. I used to say I wouldn't have wished it upon my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Now I say, if you must, go through it, because the blessing on the other side, like God doesn't waste pain. And oftentimes, pain is God's preparation for us. And so if you go through it, if you must go through a really hard time like I had to go through it and come out the other side a better person and learn those lessons
Yeah.
that he intended you to learn so that you can deploy those in your life like I have. Now, to your question, or to answer your direct question, my coach at the time, I tried to push him away because he was my business coach. And I was like, I don't have a business. What are we going to discuss every other week?
Yeah.
And he goes, Josh, I think you'll need me more now than ever. And he was so right.
Yeah.
He was wise. He wasn't just trying to hang on to me as a client. He was right. And one of the things that we came up with together was we reinvented the T chart. Now, most people think of T charts as assets on one side, liabilities on the other, or whatever it may, pros, cons list, whatever it may be. How we reinvented it was, what did I love about my previous world on the left side? And what did I dislike? Because again, I'm getting recruited by all these financial firms to go do exactly what I was doing, and probably even on a bigger scale, but something wasn't sitting right. So I really had to figure out what wasn't sitting right. Well, on the left side of that, I wrote, helping people, serving people, helping people see bigger visions for themselves than they even saw without me, recruiting, helping build dreams for others that they could live into. Helping people eliminate regret, all these different things on the left side that just had to do with me serving people, coaching people, pouring my life into people. And on the right side, I had, compliance. I had FINRA and SEC regulations. I had narcissistic advisors that caused some of the problems that I was dealing with, and corporate politics, right? So those were on my right side of what I really disliked. So at the bottom of it, we just wrote a really wise question. What if I could eliminate, or at the very least mitigate, all the stuff on the right side and only do what I love doing on the left side? And that started to create my vision for what I wanted to do next. So I put that tool in my book as well, because I think whether you're going through a transition or that you're potentially questioning, is your purpose in your work right now? It's a great tool to utilize and figure out if that's what you were meant to do, or if you need to start looking for that list of things on the left side, the stuff that you love to do and you're great at doing. How can you design a world where you only did the stuff that you love to do and you're great at doing?
I love that question. I mean, I love the concept behind that, sort of actually spelling it all out and saying, I'm going to truly look at, this is what I like. And I think a lot of people probably would dismiss that as even a possibility. Like, even if I make that, there's no way I can, eliminate that one side of the chart. And I think you said mitigate. And I think that's the reality is maybe we can't eliminate everything that's frustrating about, work and careers and things like that. But if you can mitigate that, I mean, it and create for yourself an environment that allows you to look forward to and be have positive, sort of feelings about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. I think it's a really great exercise to have. I don't know who said this quote, but it's I feel fairly famous where they say, we learn way more in failure than we do in success. And you mentioned taking that hard time and using it to, I think we lost. I think I lost you, Josh. Okay, hopefully we're back here. Had little technical difficulties. We'll try and fix that with an edit. But we were talking about kind of the lessons learned, the kind of take-home messages of, or not take-home messages, but the ability to take a challenging time, a hardship, and learn from it, and sort of use that on the other side. And I know you talked about how it's kind of motivated you to move from a career path that had maybe too many of that con side of the chart. So talk more about, kind of what came next. You made those decisions. And I would say that the interesting thing is your business coach said you need me more now than before. I have had that very experience where I think for entrepreneurs, our business coaches end up in a lot of examples being our therapist as much as the actual business coach, because so much of business and entrepreneurship is mindset and facing challenges. So talk to us a little bit about, kind of the after that, that downtime.
Yeah, so I had to get through the stages of grief. If anyone's ever been, or lost a dear loved one and you've gone through the stages of grief, you kind of figure out that there's a path and there's a process that you go through, those 5 stages. And the ultimate path is getting to acceptance. So I had to accept that my old world was gone and not try to hang on to that anymore. And now I got to envision the future. So as I did that, I started thinking about a place instead of traveling all over the country to coach. And I do some of that and speak, but more or less finding a place like Field of Dreams type moment where if I build it, they'll come. And so invested in these 80 acres I set out for my realtor to find 80 to 100 acres. And about 6 months later, we found that perfect spot. And now we're here building on this vision, inviting people to come to this property and get away from their hustle and bustle of their daily lives, from their work to their families, whatever it may be, and tap inward and fix, some of the things that we got going on. As you know, Jason, like entrepreneurship's a lonely game, and being in leadership is a lonely proposition, but it doesn't have to be. So I built communities around this. I built groups where we can support each other and be in communion with people that want you to win and are going through some of the same issues that you are, and have been through that before and can go, oh, I remember a time. Let me tell you what I did to get out of that. And whether that's me or some of the people that I built in the community, that's been a huge, huge lift to help others that are just a little bit behind us. So it came from, finally closing that deal with my old company, then finding the place, and then starting to build upon that vision. But just like any entrepreneur, you don't necessarily know where you're starting. You're just leaning into the vision and figuring it out all the way along.
Yeah. Are you still in the figuring it out stage? You feel like, or you got it figured
All right,
out?
so 4 years into this, I think, for most entrepreneurs, it's about 5 years that you really figure it out. My vision is now crystal clear, but that's just happened in the last few months. And I have a brilliant integrator. That's the one employee I took from my firm of 250 people that I had. And we're slowly trickling this out and continuing to build upon that 10-year vision that we now have laid out. But every single day, there's something to figure out. Like my vision, my mission, my values, all very clear, which a lot of business owners can't say. And that's part of the work that I do and help them with EOS and whatnot. But that's very clear. Now it's like be very hard on the goal and very flexible on how you get there. And it's learning that flexibility part and staying agile that we all have to do.
Yeah. I like the reference to the time it takes to really, you can have, all the vision in the world. I think that's where a lot of people can get held back, is they think, oh, I want to do this great thing. And then it doesn't happen in 3 months or 6 months, and they're like, "Oh, it's impossible." But the reality is, as you just demonstrated, and I've talked to many of my guests, it's like you really start to see the true results 5 years, 10 years, sometimes it's 20 years down the line, where it's like, oh, it looks like you're the overnight success, but really it's been a very long time of sort of grinding and sticking to that vision. And as you just mentioned, like the flexibility around that vision, you can look at some of the world's biggest companies. It's like Amazon's not a bookstore now. You can buy books on Amazon, but it's not a bookstore anymore. And it's kind of like there's just things that come through the evolution of figuring it out. but it's a matter of just not stopping, not giving up. So um, I really, I think it's one of the most valuable things, I'm sure, in your community, and also just on podcasts and even social media, is like when people talk about the length of time it took to get to that level of success, and the number of failures or lost money or hard times that have happened, but you just stick with it, and eventually you have people like yourself and Jeff Bezos and Alex Hermosi, like people that just went through the hard stuff and kept pushing towards that vision and believing in it. I think it's just such a powerful message.
Yeah, and one other thing I'll add to it is that just because you were successful in one arena doesn't mean that's going to transpose to the next. Like for two instances there, like I could have taken that big payout and disappeared for quite a while, or I could lean in, invest, and continue to build the next dream and vision. But that being said, this next dream and vision was totally different than what I was used to doing. Like what I was used to doing, I had a blueprint. I had it figured out. I'd been doing it for 17 years. Like I knew exactly what to do, what levers to pull, and how to continue. Like we were up 30% through COVID. Like we had things humming, and then my knees got chopped out. So it did, like those lessons and that blueprint didn't transpose to the new thing that I was doing. And so it's a lot of figuring out and making sure that you throw enough spaghetti against the wall and stay agile to figure out the next thing. And like you said, invest in some things that are utter failures, learn that lesson, don't do that again, continue to put one foot in front of the other till you get some traction.
Yeah. Yeah. I, I think that it's a hard, maybe lesson to swallow from someone else to say, oh, you have to go through some of the failures. But I have yet to find someone who's been a really successful entrepreneur, business owner, that didn't have, they built something truly big and meaningful, and that didn't have those downtimes, those failures, those, businesses gone wrong. And so I think probably the reason is because that's where you actually learn things. It's like in success, a lot of times we're just trying to keep up with the success. It's a little hard to actually implement true business strategy if you're in hyper growth mode with your company, right? You're just trying to keep up with the business and make the money and all of that. But it sets you up for systems that could break in a time of, challenging economic times or things like that. So I think it's just, as you described, you're creating this community where people can talk to others who have been through it, been down that road, seen some things that you haven't. You might as well take that, those experiences from others and hopefully shorten your learning curve. Maybe you get one less loss along the way. But I think it's almost like a rite of passage that some of that is going to happen.
Yeah, in fact, I've long noticed this along the lines that you're saying here, that God keeps putting hard times or lessons in front of us until we fully learn the lesson. It's almost like he's slapping you up against the head and be like, I already taught you this once. Why didn't you learn?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. It's easy to do. It's easy to get caught up in, we get back to a successful time, but a lot of it is tied to it's easy to be successful when market conditions are good, when everything is sort of primed for growth and everybody's, happy, the economy's good. But then the companies that succeed through the downturns, that's when they really have they show that they've really built something there. So it's like you look at the companies that have been around for, 60, 100 years, though they've seen things and had to adapt and be agile in their business structure along the way. So I think it's just it's not always easy to take on the lessons of others, but it can be extremely, extremely powerful.
That's right. It's efficient. It's the most efficient way of learning. It's not often, like most of the time, We need the impactful way of learning, which is touch the hot stove. Oh, that's hot. I won't do that again.
Yep.
But if you want to be efficient, it's learning through others.
Yep. Yep. Talk to us a little bit about that. The structure. You've got the space. How would someone kind of get involved into your network?
So joshkosnick.com, you can look at all the platform of stuff that I do. But really, for me, when I got this space, it was to share. Like everyone that comes out here is like, how don't you live here? And I'm like, well, you try getting 4 kids to clean up and for any event that's coming up, and
Yeah.
you'll understand why. But really, what we got this space for was to share. Like I think that we are so digitally ingrained in our society now, whether it's these phones that we got or these Zoom screens that we're on, that we just forget God's beautiful earth, and we forget that nature is a big part of us. Like you and I, growing up, we didn't have the cell phone, so we were outside playing cops and robbers, ghosts in the graveyard, capture the flag, till the lights came on, or till mom screamed out the door and told us to come home. And we got to experience community with our friends, not via a screen. And we got to experience nature in its purest form. And nowadays, we just don't have that as much. Like, I'm raising 4 kids and I'm trying to get them outside as much as possible, off the screens as much as possible. And it's a harder proposition. But even as adults, we do so much of this via phone, via Zoom, that we're not often touching inward. And so when we got this, I'm like, anyone that wants to come out here and dream up an event, like we just held an event for contractors last week that I keynoted at. But I didn't have any other responsibilities because these other guys wanted to do it. And they got 50 or so entrepreneurs, contractors together at the farm. We held it in our barn, and we had 5 great speakers, including myself. And so I got to learn a lot about contracting that day, because that's not my world that I live in every day. But then I keynoted, and so we've had weddings, we've had bourbon tastings, charitable events, all this different stuff. But if someone wants just to come here and sit at the table and run their leadership team with these beautiful 22-foot windows that bring the outside in, instead of sitting in a stuffy conference room, that's what we got it for. If someone wants to host a wedding or a big old event that they bring a lot of people together, we got a horse arena with 12,000 square feet. We've hosted huge events in there, from political to motivational to anything in between. But for my communities, what I try and do, like my mission now, is to help people live the life of their dreams inside and outside their businesses. And then the second part is to eliminate regret. It's like too often entrepreneurs, because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so did my wife, and I now work with entrepreneurs on a daily basis. We sacrifice some of our best years to build the dream that we have. And we end up sometimes divorced, sometimes addicted to substances or pornography or gambling or something else. And sometimes we sacrifice our health. And I'm like, I used to be in the financial planning world, like I mentioned, and we always studied the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the top 5 regrets of the dying would change a little bit each year, but they all had one common theme. It was they regretted not taking action. They regretted not doing something. It wasn't on the stuff that they did do that they regretted. It was on the stuff they didn't do. And that's why I always go back to that famous Dr. Les Brown quote, one of the best speakers of all time. He would say the wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard, where everyone's dreams and hopes go to die. And that's so true, because that's what we regret. The action that we didn't take, the stuff that we didn't do, the time that we didn't take with our kids, the time that we didn't spend with our wife that led to our divorce. Like, those are the things I'm trying to help people eliminate, because that's through EOS or any of the other leadership coaching that I do, is how do we build the best possible leadership team so that you're not wearing everything on your shoulders, so that you're not wearing the weight of the world on your shoulders, that you can actually take a vacation and not even bring your cell phone because you're not worried about your business at all, where you can literally sit back and relax and recharge so that you can go back to that business as a better leader, better human, and get everyone ready to make the next sprint.
Yeah. This message is so, I think, so important. It's hard to do. It's hard to take that step. But then, if you're again, if you're within this network of people that are doing it and have, sort of common set of values, it makes it a little bit easier. But I think that building the life that you want, kind of it takes active work to do it. And if you're just sort of passively experiencing your job, your life, whatever, that's where you start to lose those things. And you mentioned, entrepreneurs, we get into those, whether it's addiction or divorce or whatever, all of that stuff is I think, unfortunately common because of there's a lot involved with actually, owning a business and growing a business. So then if you create these systems, and I know, I'm actually not familiar with EOS. I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I have not implemented or used it. But I know people tend to be very, very big fans, and that it helps, sort of really systematize their businesses. What have you always used that with your other companies, or how did you kind of get turned on to using EOS?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got handed the book Traction in 2019 by my top advisor who was under my firm, and he started utilizing it, and it really propelled like 10x his practice. And he goes, Josh, I think as you grow in the firm, this will be really helpful for you. I loved it. However, I'm too ADD. I mentioned that earlier, that I didn't read the back of the book and didn't know implementers existed. So I just started trying to do it on my own. And, in hindsight, had I read the back of the book, I would have gladly stroked that check to hire an implementer, because it's really hard to be a facilitator and a participant at the same time. And so ran on that for 2 years, quickly realized I need an integrator, read the follow-up book called Rocket Fuel. I was like, oh, I don't have one of those. I need that. Hired an integrator, and she's still with me today. She's the one person I brought with me, and really started trying to run it. Now, as I got into coaching, and I thought I was mostly going to do leadership, and I still do a lot of that, I kept uncovering that entrepreneurs have two major issues and then like 136 little issues underneath those two major ones. Yeah. But the two major ones are people development, or otherwise known as leadership. And then the other one is systems and processes to help them scale and grow. Well, as I kept uncovering that systems and processes one, I was like, well, let me go get certified in EOS, because that's what I've known. And I knew it worked, even though I didn't do it appropriately. And then I have another tool in the tool belt to help these entrepreneurs continue to scale and grow and live into the mission that they built out. And so as I've been doing that for 2.5 years, it's been wonderful, because I get to blend my leadership coaching and style in with the EOS systems and processes type thing. And it's been a home run.
No, it's funny, as you were saying that, I mean, those are, I think, sort of uniformly, those are the two biggest problems that almost tie together. I mean, I think, if you talk about leadership, one of the things that as entrepreneurs, I think people tend to do, myself no different, we try to do everything ourselves because we think probably we can do everything the best, or because we don't think we have the time to show someone else how to do it the way that we want. So it's like, oh, it's easier if I just do it myself. But but the leadership piece is actually that's empowering others to do as much as possible and be as big a contributors to that business as possible. And I mean, at least that's how I see it. And I think, but the system and processes do the same thing, right? It's like let's make the systematizable and the automatable processes just that, and then focus on leadership and almost like those people skills that tend to be missing in a lot of instances. What's your thought on that? I guess I would ask.
Yeah, no, I think that there is a lot of crossover, and there is some nuance. So I always say you want to systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. Now, that being said, if we do all of that right and get all the systems and processes in place that we would need to run a business, you can still have a shitty leader. Yeah. You can still be a shitty leader.
Yep.
So there is some nuance there, whereas like if you get all the systems and processes in place, but you're not trusting your people to do it, then you're hamstringing them and yourself and the growth of the company. Mm-hmm. You can still be a demeaning leader. You can still be a leader that is not present, doesn't care about their people. They just care about the systems and processes. So there is some, although you're right, there is a ton of crossover in getting those things right. there is some nuance in actually continuing to grow into being a better leader, or the best leader possible, that allows all your other people to rise up underneath you.
Yeah, no, I think that very, very well said. I think that conceptually, conceptually leadership is like an often used word that it's much doesn't get defined well. And I think the way that you describe that, in the sense that you can do a lot of those things and still be a bad leader, or you can be a good leader but not have all those, systems and processes. And so it's like it is actually, in fact, important to have both pieces of the puzzle to be truly successful. So I do appreciate that in-depth explanation. I think it makes so much sense. Josh, let me switch gears here a little bit, just so I have time to ask you the questions I ask every guest. And you've touched on this already, so I'll ask it directly, but the name of the podcast is Know Your Why. So I ask every guest, what is your why? And you sort of talked about your mission and everything, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, if there's anything more you want to kind of expand in that area before we move on.
Yeah, the mission is the why. Now, I will give some context to this, because as a leader, I had 250 people underneath me at my old firm. And I would always ask that question. That's why I love the title of your podcast and the mission that you have, because oftentimes people would be like, well, it's my family. And I used to accept that answer. And I even put a message in my book about this exact topic. It's really endearing to say, well, my kids are my why. Mm-hmm. I do it for them. And I used to accept that answer, and now I really can't, because who would you be if you didn't provide for your kids? If you didn't set the example for your kids? If you didn't wake up every day with a burning passion to show them the way, be the example? God gave you entirely different skill set than me. He wired every single one of us differently, uniquely, and divinely. All right, so let's say that our kids or our family are our starting block. If we can agree on that, like, we have to show up and be the example for them. Sure. Like, your dad, your mom, or your dad are the only people on this planet that want you to be greater than them. Jason and I, let's say we do the exact same thing, and I'm a very giving person, and Jason's a very giving person. I still want to beat Jason in whatever endeavor we're doing, because I'm competitive, and I bet the same way back for Jason. So your parents are the only people that want you to be better than them. Yeah. And so our kids or our family is our starting point. If you say that's your why, you haven't dug deep far enough. You haven't really figured out what God's purpose is in your life and are living into that. That's but I'll go back to answer your question. Like I said before, my mission is really to help others live the life of their dreams inside and outside of their businesses, and help them eliminate regret. But how I go about doing that is nuance. Is one, being the example in all areas of my life. I'm I'm on this race to really try and match God's image of me, what he, like, to exhaust everything he put in me, and show up to heaven's gates completely exhausted, running that race, and show people the proper way of going about it. And then all these systems and tools and lessons that I've learned over time to give back to the world. Like, I think it's our job to figure out what our gifts are. And then the secondary part of that job is to give them back to the world in the service of others.
I love it. And I think your statement about, the family being the why, and how it's maybe not deep enough. And I agree, despite the fact that I often, when people ask me that question, that is the answer, but it's a part of the answer, in the sense that
it's a part.
You're exactly right. Like, my biggest, like, maybe the most exciting thing I can think about, like, in the future, is watching my kids do something better than me, like, just be. And so, but it's also, when you start to actually really dig in and think more about it, I mean, there are a lot. It's not a single answer. There's a lot of components to it. I've at times toyed with the idea of changing the podcast name to The Evolution of Why, because I also think it changes sometimes based on what stage of life you're in. You like I didn't always have kids, so like if I think back, I had a why. I just didn't know it was called that, or didn't really define it. So I think that there's different levels and nuance to that as well. So I think you're exactly right. Josh, when people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best place?
So I'm really simple. I've got great SEO. I haven't met another Josh Kosnick. So at Josh Kosnick for all social medias, and then joshkosnick.com. And I love to connect with people and hear what your biggest takeaway was, or if you want to challenge anything that I've stated today, uh, I'm open to that as well. And I just love helping people connect to their purpose, their greater purpose, and help them live that in the world. And if I can be even just a small part of that, that's really brings me a lot of joy. And then the biggest thing is get the book, the Kairos Code. I put a lot of heart in, a lot of uh, hard fought lessons, a lot of pain that I wanted to give back to the world. So part one is my story, and part two is how you implement it into your life. And I created a free assessment for anyone that wants to hop on that. The average person, it's taking them 6.5 minutes to take the assessment. So it's not a huge portion of your life, but it'll give you a lot of clarity about what bridges you need to start expanding upon to make sure that you don't live your life with any regrets. So you can go to joshkosnick.com/assessment, and it's totally free, and it will help you understand, what areas of your life you're doing really well in, and what areas of life you need some work in.
Perfect. We'll get all that in the show notes so people can find you and find the assessment if they want to try that. Josh, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you for coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. I truly appreciate the time and kind of everything that you shared with me and the audience. So thank you for being here.
No, very welcome. This is part of what I love to do is to pour back into people. And if I can have just, like I said, a small part of influence or impact on their life, brings me a ton of joy. So thanks for having me, Jason.
Absolutely. Folks listening, make sure you connect with Josh. Please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get great guests. And as always, thank you for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?